Since its establishment in 1948, Israel has been involved in numerous wars and armed conflicts that have resulted in substantial loss of life. Aggregating the estimated death tolls from each of these conflicts yields a staggering total of over 134,499 deaths. These figures, while subject to variations across different sources, underscore the immense human tragedy that has unfolded over decades of conflict in the region. The ongoing war initiated in 2023 has contributed dramatically to this statistic. The United Nations has passed 454 resolutions against Israel in the same period. When we compare these resolution numbers with 5 of the most horrific tragedies in human history, a different picture starts to emerge. The combined United Nations resolutions regarding the Holocaust, the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, the Srebrenica Genocide, the Cambodian Genocide and the Yazidi Genocide is only 19 resolutions. We will delve further into these tragedies in the rest of this video. This analysis reveals a significant disparity between the substantial number of United Nations resolutions passed concerning Israel, when compared to 5 genocides recognized by the United Nations. Why do you think that is?
How about the state of Israel?
Yes, there have been for Israel, yes.
I'm going to ask this question. Why do you suppose that is? Why do you suppose only one country has been subject to these actions and not any others?
Because some people are anti-Semitic.
Okay.
Obviously, we are not including other genocides like the Armenian Genocide, with a comparable death toll to some of the highest casualty conflicts, between 600,000 and 1.5 million deaths, because the United Nations have not specifically recognized it as genocide, primarily due to political sensitivities. The term genocide carries profound legal and moral weight within the international community. Defined in the 1948 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, it encompasses specific acts committed with the intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. The United Nations plays a crucial role in recognizing and responding to instances of genocide. The General Assembly, through resolutions like 96I in 1946, affirmed that genocide is a crime under international law. The Holocaust, the systematic persecution and murder of approximately 6 million Jews by the Nazi regime and its collaborators during World War II, stands as a defining example of genocide in the 20th century. The estimated number of deaths attributed to the Holocaust is approximately 6 million Jews, representing about 1/3 of the global Jewish population at the time. In addition to Jewish victims, millions of members of other minority groups, including Roma and Sinti, people with disabilities and political opponents, were also systematically murdered by the Nazi regime. Between 1975 and 1979, the Khmer Rouge regime in Cambodia, under the leadership of Pol Pot, perpetrated a systematic persecution and killing of Cambodian citizens, resulting in the deaths of an estimated 1.5 to 3 million people. A significant number of these deaths were due to direct executions, while others resulted from starvation, disease, and the harsh conditions of forced labor in the Khmer Rouge's attempt to establish a communist agrarian society. The UN's efforts to achieve accountability occurred decades after the regime's fall, highlighting the protracted nature of seeking justice for such large-scale atrocities. The genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda in 1994 was a horrific event during which an estimated 800,000 to 1 million people, predominantly of the Tutsi ethnic group, were systematically killed in approximately 100 days. The Srebrenica genocide, which occurred in July 1995 during the Bosnian War, involved the systematic execution of over 8,000 Bosnian Muslim men and boys by the Army of Republika Srpska. In 2014, the Yazidi religious minority in Iraq faced a brutal campaign of violence by the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, or ISIL. The estimated number of Yazidis killed by ISIL is around 5,000, and approximately 6,400 to 10,800 were kidnapped or taken captive. 10 years after the genocide began, about 1,300 Yazidi children remain missing. The systematic nature of ISIL's attacks, including mass killings, sexual enslavement, and forced conversions, demonstrates a clear intent to destroy the Yazidi community as a religious group. The General Assembly has not adopted a specific resolution on the Yazidi genocide, but its resolutions have focused on countering hate speech, such as Resolution 73/328 from 2019.
Mr. Mansour, you mentioned our Prime Minister many times in your speech, your long speech. I want to remind you the words of our former Prime Minister, Golda Meir, who served 50 years ago in this position, and she said that peace will come when you will love your children more than you hate us. Mr. President, a bright young couple in their 20s were in the prime of their lives dedicated to diplomacy. Yaron Lishinsky and Sarah Lynn Milgram were stars in Israel's foreign service, working in the diplomatic team at the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. They were deeply in love. Yaron was planning to propose to Sarah this week in Jerusalem, but they never made it to Jerusalem. A week ago, last Wednesday night, as they were leaving an event for young diplomats hosted by the Capital Jewish Museum, they were shot dead, murdered by a terrorist screaming, "Free Palestine, free Palestine." This was a targeted anti-Semitic assassination of two Israeli diplomats on American soil. This was anti-Semitic terrorism of the most horrific order. It was an act of pure evil. The animal who pulled the trigger was just the final link in a chain of incitement that stretches across social media, across university campuses, across valleys, and yes, across the floor of this very council. The blood of Yaron and Sarah is not only on the shooter's hands, it is on every official, every influencer, every academic, every anti-Semite, every so-called expert who has spent the last 19 months portraying Israel as a genocidal regime and terrorists as freedom fighters. But we cannot talk about such recklessness without talking about Mr. Tom Fletcher, who sat here a few weeks ago. Mr. Fletcher has assumed the role of moral preacher. His speeches and statements drip with pomposity and self-righteousness, but not a shred of responsibility. Just a few weeks ago, in this chamber, he accused Israel of genocide. I have demanded the retract of this baseless and vile accusation, but he has not so far. As if that was not outrageous enough, he declared just 2 days before Yaron and Sarah's murder that, quote, and I quote him directly, "There are 14,000 babies in Gaza that will die in the next 48 hours. And you should have seen the way he spoke, like he has some information that we don't have. That claim was a lie. It had no basis in fact, and yet it was broadcast across social media, fueling the already terrible anti-Semitism. Of course, as we all know, 14,000 babies did not die in those 48 hours, but 2 innocent Jews did. Mr. Fletcher was forced to retract that lie after the BBC corrected him. But retractions don't put the bullets back in the gun. They don't bring back Yaron and Sarah. They don't erase the damage done by those who slander the Jewish state without a second thought, without thinking before speaking.
Please comment and share your thoughts on this video. Your engagement helps us bring more content like this to you.